At a family dinner, she announced, "My ex will always be a part of my world. If you can't accept that, don't marry me." All eyes turned to me. I simply replied, "Fine." By the following week, the wedding invitations were halted, and she realized our engagement was crumbling. It all unraveled at a tense Sunday gathering, one of those pre-wedding dinners where two families, strangers to each other, are forced to act like they're about to become one. My parents, a reserved couple married for 4 decades, sat on one side of the table. Across from them were my fiancée, Elise's parents, retired counselors who spoke in the jargon of self-help books and treated every boundary as optional. At the center of it all was Theo, Elise's ex-boyfriend. To her and her family, he was less an ex and more a lifelong companion, an irreplaceable piece of her personal circle. Theo was a fixture at every holiday, every birthday, every family event. He even had a key to her parents' home. He was the ever-present shadow lingering over our relationship. I'd been upfront about my discomfort with Theo from the start. I'm not possessive, but I value clear lines. I believe past relationships belong in the past, not sitting across from you at dinner, sharing private jokes with your future spouse. My concerns were always dismissed with patronizing lectures from Elise and her parents about my outdated territorial instincts and my failure to embrace their progressive, fluid definition of family. They viewed my traditional principles as a quaint but flawed trait. I went along with it not out of weakness but because I was testing the waters. I wanted to see how far she'd take it. I needed to know if the foundation of our relationship was solid or built on shifting sand. The issue came to a head during dessert when the wedding seating chart was discussed. My mother, a woman of quiet but unshakable conviction, asked calmly, "Elise, I noticed Theo is placed at the main family table, next to your cousin. Is that the best spot for him? Perhaps a table with friends would be more suitable." The room turned icy. Elise's mother set her spoon down with a sharp clink. Elise's face flushed with anger. "It's about appearances, Elise," I said, stepping in before she could erupt. "Having your ex at the family table might confuse our guests." Elise turned on me, her voice sharp. "Confuse? The only confusion here is you and your parents clinging to some 1950s mindset. Theo is my closest friend. He's family. He was in my life long before you, and he'll be there long after." Her father jumped in, his tone oozing superiority. "We've discussed this, Daniel. Your rigid ideas about relationships breed insecurity. Elise and Theo share a mature, evolved bond. You should embrace it, not try to control it." It was a well-rehearsed tag-team assault, with her mother nodding sagely. They were experts at this kind of psychological manipulation. But this time, my parents were there, witnessing Elise and her family treat me, and our future marriage with such flippant disrespect. Emboldened by her parents' support, Elise decided to escalate. She stood, hands on her hips, and delivered the ultimatum that would derail everything. Looking from my mother to me, she declared loudly, "Let me be crystal clear. My ex will always be part of my life. He'll be at our wedding. He'll be at our kids' milestones. He'll be at our holidays. That's non-negotiable. If you can't handle it, don't marry me." Her words hung in the silent room like a challenge. Everyone waited for my response, expecting me to argue, plead, or cave as I had so often to keep the peace. Elise stood there, radiating smug confidence, certain she had me cornered. I stayed silent for a long moment. I looked at her, standing in her defiant arrogance. I looked at her enabling parents, nodding in approval. I looked at my own parents, their faces a mix of shock and quiet resolve. Then I looked back at Elise. The test was over. She'd shown me the final results, and the foundation was irreparably flawed. I gave a slow, deliberate nod. "Fine," I said, my voice so calm it seemed to unsettle her. "Fine?" she echoed, her tone mocking. "Fine, you'll stop being so insecure? Fine, you'll act like an adult?" "No," I said, rising from the table. I folded my napkin and placed it beside my plate. "Fine, I won't marry you." I turned to my parents. "Mom, Dad, let's go." Without another glance at Elise or her stunned family, the three of us walked out of their home and their lives. Update 1: the car ride home with my parents was quiet for the first 10 minutes. My father drove, his eyes locked on the road, hands tight on the wheel. My mother gazed out the window. They were probably expecting me to collapse, to show some sign of devastation. But I felt only an overwhelming sense of relief, as if a 5-year burden had been lifted. Finally, my dad spoke, his voice steady. You sure about this, son? I've never been more certain, I replied. My mother turned from the front seat, her eyes free of tears, filled instead with quiet pride. Good, she said. She wasn't right for you. We were just waiting for you to realize it. When I got back to my house, the one I'd purchased, where Elise had been living for 2 years, my phone was flooded. Missed calls, texts from Elise, her parents, her friends, even Theo. They ranged from angry to bewildered to desperate. Elise, what was that? You just left? This can't be serious. Her mom, Daniel, you've hurt our daughter deeply. You need to come back and apologize. Theo, man, what's your deal? You're making this bigger than it is. They all assumed this was a temporary outburst, something they could smooth over with their usual patronizing tactics. They didn't yet understand the weight of my fine. I didn't respond. Instead, I made one call to our wedding planner, Margaret, a consummate professional. Margaret, it's Daniel, I said. The wedding's off. For good. There was a stunned pause. But the invitations go out tomorrow morning. Stop them, I said. Not one should be sent. Start canceling everything, vendors, venue, all of it. Elisa's family is handling the finances, so they'll deal with the refunds and fees. This was deliberate. I hadn't paid for the wedding. Elisa's father had, a fact he loved to broadcast. Now the cost of dismantling a lavish, 6-figure event was their burden, not mine. By the next morning, Margaret's efficiency was in full force. She called Elisa's parents first. I'd have paid to hear that conversation. The caterer, florist, band, venue. Each call was another blow to their grand plans. Another non-refundable deposit lost. Elisa's father called me. His voice a mix of fury and panic. What have you done? Do you know how much this is costing us? You can't just walk away. I didn't do anything, I said calmly. I accepted Elisa's terms. She gave me a choice. Accept her ex as a permanent part of our marriage or end it. I chose to end it. I respected her boundary. The fallout is yours to handle. He ranted about lawyers, lawsuits, broken promises. Broken promises? I laughed coldly. You were there, Robert. You heard her ultimatum. A dozen witnesses heard it. She made our marriage conditional and I declined the terms. There's no lawsuit. Just the bill for a celebration you're no longer hosting. I hung up. That afternoon, Elise showed up at my house, letting herself in with her key. She found me in the living room, surrounded by boxes. I was packing her belongings. What are you doing? She shrieked, her face a mask of shock. Helping you move, I said, not looking up. You'll need a new place to stay. This is my house, my name's on the deed, and your welcome is over. I'm changing the locks tomorrow. Arrange for your parents to pick up your things. Her confident facade shattered, revealing the entitled, panicked person beneath. She sobbed, begged, said she didn't mean it, that it was a foolish outburst, that she loved me. I stood unmoved. That conversation should have happened when you disrespected my mother at your dinner table, I said. It should have happened before you made your ex a condition of our marriage. You made your choice. Now I've made mine. Update 2: The next 30 days were a harsh lesson for Elise in accountability. She and her family had lived in a cushioned world of endless second chances, insulated by wealth and their smug sense of superiority. That world was gone. The first lesson was financial. Her father, after a week of threats, realized I wouldn't contribute a dime to the wedding's fallout. The cancellation fees and lost deposits, I heard, neared $100,000. A devastating hit, even for them. The second lesson was social. They tried to spin the story, claiming I was unhinged, that I'd canceled the wedding over nothing. But the tale was too compelling. A dozen people witnessed Elisa's ultimatum and my calm response. The story spread through their social circle. Elise wasn't the victim. She was the overconfident fiancé who'd gambled and lost. Elise moved back in with her parents. Their home, I was told, was a battleground. Her parents, stung by the financial loss and public embarrassment, resented her. Their evolved family dynamic crumbled, revealing a bitter, dysfunctional core. Theo, the indispensable ex, proved useless in a crisis. He'd been a charming addition when Elise had a stable, successful fiancé, but he had no interest in supporting a broke, unemployed, emotionally unstable woman. His calls and texts dwindled. He was always busy. In the end, he was just another fair-weather friend. While Elisa's life unraveled, I rebuilt mine. I took a solo trip to Europe, a dream I'd postponed because Elise wasn't interested. I returned refreshed, focused on my career, and landed the biggest project of my life. I reconnected with friends who'd faded away, friends who'd disliked the version of me with Elise. I wasn't dating. I was savoring the calm, the freedom of a life unburdened by someone else's emotional chaos. The final lesson for Elise came 6 months later. A prestigious architectural magazine featured a historic theater I'd spent 2 years restoring. It was a career-defining moment. The article included photos from a gala celebrating the theater's reopening, attended by the mayor and the city's elite. One image showed me on stage accepting an award. Final update: it's been over a year since that Sunday dinner. My life has transformed in ways I couldn't have imagined. My company is thriving, and the theater project opened doors to opportunities one never dreamed of. I sold my old house and bought a sleek downtown loft, clean lines, exposed brick, a space that's entirely mine. 6 months ago, I started dating Anna, a compassionate, brilliant doctor with a spine of steel. Her warm, boisterous Italian family welcomed me with open hearts and endless plates of food. Her past stays in the past, as does mine. We're building a future grounded in mutual respect and clear boundaries. I hadn't spoken to Elise in over a year. I'd blocked her and her family everywhere, but word trickled through mutual acquaintances. Her parents had to sell their sprawling home and move to a smaller condo after the wedding's financial hit and her father's failed investments. Elise still lived with them, trying to start a career as a wellness coach. But without my money to fund it, the venture stalled. She was working part-time at a boutique, a job she reportedly despised. Theo was gone, engaged to someone else, and he and his new fiancée made it clear Elise wasn't part of their modern family. The final moment came last month at a charity auction. I was there with Anna, bidding on a painting, laughing together. Across the room, I saw Elise. She was a volunteer, wearing a black apron, serving drinks and clearing plates. She saw me, happy, relaxed, with a confident, accomplished woman by my side. For a fleeting moment, her mask of indifference slipped, revealing raw, unmistakable regret. Before I could react, she turned and vanished into the kitchen.